when you see yourself in a character?
An assortment of characters ranging from protagonist and hero to manipulative villain, and if I asked you to tell me them all, it might take you a
Oh,
while
I
to
hate Deku,
figure
bro.
out that all of these are characters that I see myself in. If I asked you to name 5 characters that you see a reflection of who you are in, which ones would you give me, and what would that say about who you are?
I have no idea
I
off the
believe that
top of
if
my
we are
head.
able to answer that question, we can discover the true meaning and beauty of why we create and why we love stories and more specifically, characters. My name is Josh, I'm the host of Beyond Media, and in this video we'll be talking about characters that we see ourselves in. When you think of any great character or story, there are typically a few words or phrases that
Oh,
more or less
I'm watching Frieren right now. Oh my god. Yesterday, I had work. Usually I work like at night, but yesterday I had a shift like not early in the morning, but it was 10 till 2. And I came home and I literally was like, I just want to be a chud today. Like, I just want to do nothing today. So I literally, I'm not gonna spoil it, but I literally watched, because I started watching Frieren like last year. But I don't like, I watched until like episode 6, and then I think I had like school or work or something, and then I just stopped watching it. But then I picked it back up because one of my coworkers was like, "Oh, I'm watching it right now. It's so good." And oh my god, I think I watched from episode 6 all the way to episode 15. And I think I calculated it out. I literally watched Freerun for 3 hours. Like, I was just a chud. I was chud maxing, laying in my bed, watching Freerun for 3 straight hours. Like, oh my god, it's so good though. It's so fire, and the animation is so good, and I love the story. And just from this in my head, they're married, bro. There's
attempt
no
to
way.
articulate their essence. For Denji, you might think love or lonely, whereas for a character like the Joker, you might think insane or
No, I think those two things, and I also think freaky. Bro, they're so good. Yeah, I think freaky for Denji. Love, lonely, freaky.
broken. Sometimes exploring a character's core can be extrapolated into hour-long video essays, but regardless of how many words you choose to allocate to the expression of it, that character's core can be experienced and typically universally understood by everyone who gives time to that character.
Denji
And it's
is
from
real though.
that central essence, that metaphorical seed where every other aspect of the character is able to grow from. It takes that core trait or idea and is able to stretch it outward and form it into something comprehensive and complex. And it's that mix of traits, emotions, and explored ideas that form what we perceive as a character, and typically it's what allows us to see ourselves in them. But before we can properly explore that, we need to hone back in on the core, because more or less that is the most important part of everything else, and to see how powerful its impact is, we need to reframe our perspective on how we relate to characters. Because the reality of connecting with a character is at its strongest when you're
Mm,
able to prune all the tendrils of growth and just see yourself within the core of a fictional character. And that idea is best seen when you recognize yourself in a character that previously seemed like nothing you could ever understand. Because all it takes is one interaction to see a bit of who you are in something you would never have imagined. All you need is one moment. And before we can really explore that core and what it means, I need to tell you a story. There aren't many characters for which I feel true fear reading about or seeing. Not even characters like Griffith or Johan or Am are able to make me feel truly afraid and unsettled. But one
mm.
of the characters I do feel that way for is Saiko Osabe from Oshimi Shuzo's manga Blood on the Tracks. There will be
Huh.
both minor and major spoilers, but the timestamps to avoid both of these are in the description and on screen now, and I will also provide a major spoiler warning as we get closer to it in this section of the video. At first, Psycho comes across more or less as a loving wife and normal mother. She takes care of her family and displays a great amount of affection and desire to protect, specifically for her young son, Seiichi. However, even within the first few chapters, the phenomenal art style and art direction is able to subtly communicate something silently lurking below the surface. There's
She wants
something
to
weird in how
kill
she
everyone.
behaves and how she looked. In fact, every character looks vaguely uncanny. When
Mm,
Seiko smiles, there is some odd sense to the artwork that makes her character feel alive in the way art shouldn't be able to achieve.
yeah.
While on a hike with his family, Seiichi's cousin is fooling around by the cliffside before nearly falling off before Seiko saves him.
No.
And there's this odd pause, a stretch of just panels before we see Seiichi's cousin's face, and Seiko pushes him off of the cliff by
Oh
herself.
my god,
And
that's
as she turns around to
crazy.
look at her son, who just bore witness to the murder of his cousin committed by his own mom, she gives a haunting smile, with Seiichi staring in disbelief before Seiko falls to her knees and screams for help. From there, Seiko starts to act strange before screaming out that they need to look for the child that she just pushed over the mountain,
What?
causing Seiichi to need to grapple with the fact that he just watched his mother kill his own cousin. And it's from there that a small lie is shared between these two, with Seiichi knowing what his mother did, but so confused by her behavior that he becomes unsure. The shared knowledge of the truth building pressure upon pressure as Seiko's obsession over her son begins to turn to vicious manipulation, with her tactics changing and shifting depending on what she wants to use him for. She shifts from love bombing and behaving vaguely incestuous to being cruel and physically violent to employing absolutely
Huh?
brutal reverse psychology,
Oh my
slowly
god.
stripping him away of every sense of personal identity that Seiichi has until she is the only thing that he is able to think about. The mental pressure and desperation that builds up in Seiichi becomes nearly impossible to read without grimacing and feeling a haunting mix of disgust and fear for Seiko, whose ability to seed and manipulate entire fabrications and
Golly.
situations slowly destroys Seiichi's life. Just take a look at how brutal she can be right here after Seiichi finally gets the courage to confront her about what he saw on that fateful day thanks to spending time with a girl in his class named Fukushi. Quote, "Are you saying mommy is lying?" "I'm not lying. I would never push Shige like that. Mommy understands how you feel. You convinced yourself that I pushed him. You wanted to make me the bad guy. You blamed yourself, didn't you? You thought that what happened to Shige was your fault. It's because you're so kind, Sei. But you got it all mixed up in the head, made it so you couldn't talk. You couldn't talk and you were all messed up and blamed it on me. You told yourself mommy had gone crazy. You didn't want it to be your fault, you poor thing. To think you turned to a vulgar
What?
little tramp like Fukushi. But I understand, we were like you and me. We were in the same boat. It's been hard for me too. Please understand how I feel. Please, please say remember what happened, what really happened."
Oh my god. That's crazy.
Do you remember now?
But why did she push his cousin in the first place when she tried to save him? That makes no
To which
sense.
Seiichi's face is left in this ghoulish,
Oh my
uncanny
god,
smile.
what the
However, it's her behavior after this brutal verbal onslaught that takes her manipulation to the next level. Sei had just spent the night at Fukushi's house, a girl he has had a crush on who both bond over
Oh,
having abusive parents. But while the two didn't get up to anything sexual, Sei did have his first admission, dirtying his underwear. And so, it feels so grossly uncomfortable where immediately in the next scene where after Seiko dotes and holds Sei, she retrieves his dirty underwear and begins to viciously condemn him, despite Sei not knowing exactly why it happened or what
what?
is happening to his body. The art becomes shaky and horrifying, and Seiko begins to berate him, calling him filthy and looking at him as disgusted before literally throwing him out of the house, causing Sei to scream out and beg for her to forgive him, letting him sit outside in tears, begging until he starts to cry before
What?
saying, quote, "I hate them too, and I'll hate Fukushi. So please forgive me," before Seiko, from the other side of the door, whispers, quote, "You will hate them? Haven't you always hated them?" And it's only after he confirms that she opens the door and makes him promise, embracing him in her love once again, with that eerily living smile
She's
plastered on her face.
crazy. What?
Before we continue, I want to ask you, what do you think is the core of Seiko's character? What was your gut inclination, the first word that came to mind?
Cruel? Cruel. Manipulative?
Was it fear or obsession or
Cruel.
control, or is she just a psychopath? What I find interesting about her character is that for the vast majority of the story, we are never directly told or shown what it is. The story puts us in the mind of Sei and lets us observe and interact in a way that forces us to draw our own conclusions about who she is. But there are small moments, a brief look at to what could be lurking under all the manipulation and all the pain. But when what that is actually revealed, I couldn't help but just sit back and stare at my screen in uncomfortable and quiet horror. Quote, Mom would often get angry at Dad, and they would both get angry at me. I was 6 when my sister was born. She was always lying down in the inner room. She was a weak child. My
Oh,
mom was always taking care of her and talking to her gently, but to me,
she yelled.
she'd always say that I was useless, and that she didn't want me.
Oh.
This is a recount of Seiko's early life to her son, with Seiko herself now in old age, and as she recounts her life and what shaped her, there is a sense of hollowness. So many broken dreams and terrible memories. See, there was always something wrong with Seiko for as long as she can remember. For some reason, she always felt impossibly distant to everyone who was close to her. And after her nephew is born, Seiko's sister-in-law tells her that things can change when you have children, and that things will change for her too. But she isn't able to grapple with that idea, because she's not even sure if she was happy to be born at all. But her husband mentions that people feel grateful to be alive after they experience love, and even though Seiko herself is impossibly and emotionally distant, she accepts that. Quote, I'll love that child from the moment he's born. No, even before he's born. He won't have to go through a life feeling as lonely as I have. I'll give him everything I wanted, everything I never had. This time, I can give that to him. I'll start over and do it right this time. It didn't go anywhere. He'll have it in my stead. I'll give you all the love you need, so you'll never be lonely. And although she was promised and told that happiness and joy and closeness was going to be given when she had this child, that isn't what happened. Because there was still something broken in Seiko's heart. Quote, I truly loved that child, but for some reason I felt so distant. My loneliness would not go away. When will these feelings heal? Not long after this, her sister passed away, and despite trying her hardest to cry, she wasn't able to because everything was just too far away. And at her sister's funeral, Seiko's mother utters the shattering words that I believe truly broke her mind. Quote, Seiko, you drained it all up. You drained up everyone's happiness and took it for yourself. And suddenly, the next time I saw Seiko's face, this old woman unraveled completely. That I had labeled as insane or crazy suddenly seemed horrifyingly human. And within the true core of her character, I didn't see a monster, but I did see a mirror. This is what brilliant and fantastic characters are able to do. They are able to draw us in and captivate us by manipulating what lies at the deepest part of what a character is and who they are supposed to be in the story. And from there, we are able to relate to and understand parts of both of them and ourselves that we never would have before. And it's that uncomfortable familiarity, that brief exchange where you see a part of yourself in a character that makes them and the story they are in feel real. The reason I harp on this idea of the core or the essence of a character is because it's usually the most condensed or simplified version of what that character is communicating. Let's say that we call Seiko's core loneliness or sadness or longing or void, and use that central idea to link it to other characters. Characters like Pun Pun, Griffith, Shoya, or Denji would reasonably be able to take on an aspect of her core, but all those characters are distinctly different from Seiko, not necessarily because the core is different, but because the expressions of it are.
think the
And typically,
circumstances
it's
are
when both the
different, too.
expressions of this core element and the core itself feel familiar and tangible that we are able to see fuller pictures of ourselves in a character. If I asked you that same question I did at the beginning of what characters do you see yourself in, but offer this boundary, how many would you cut from your original list? Or how many would you add in? This is how people can see themselves in Denji and Makima, or in Guts and Griffith simultaneously, because it doesn't break the logic of why we relate to characters, but instead spreads it out infinitely to give us vastly more touch points on what we can attach ourselves to. And it's from those attachments that we are able to become interwoven with these fictional stories. Comfort characters are one of the things that have come forward with this idea. These are characters that, for one reason or another, can work as a safe haven to real people who are undergoing real life challenges. So let's take a look at them and see if we can answer
Dude,
the
A
question.
Silent Voice is such a good movie. Oh my god. And it's one of the many movies, well, not many movies, but one of the movies that genuinely enraged me. Oh my god, when like the pigtail, not the pigtail, the braid girl, I forget her name, she literally was just, I hate her more than the black haired girl. I don't remember their names, but I hate her more because she just like blames. She's just like a victim blamer. And then oh my god, the scene where like she's literally like, Shoya used to bully her. Oh my god. And she's like crying. Bitch, why the fuck are you crying, bro? She infuriates me, bro. Oh my god.
Of why. Why is it important that characters we see ourselves in and comfort characters exist? Well, characters like One Piece's Luffy, Hinata Shoyo from Haikyuu, heck, Levi Ackerman from AOT are all pretty popular characters, and by extension, their respective series can also be popular comfort series, except AOT. Comfort characters are an interesting adaptation to what we talked about thus far, because more often than not, there is usually some sort of sense of safety or nostalgia associated with them. When characters like Levi or Gojo are comfort characters, there's usually some sort of sense that you're finding not just yourself in them, but also something that you miss or desire from them. Maybe it's the safety of feeling like when Gojo and Levi are on the screen, whatever danger is out there will be defeated by them. Attaching yourself to that sense of feeling protected under that character's identity can give you real life soothing or distress from whatever's currently going on in your life. For characters like Hinata and Luffy, it may just be that relaxed setting of high school volleyball where no matter how grand the stakes, there are still safety and fun within the sport. Or in the world of One Piece, it's the sense of family you get from spending time with the Straw Hats and enjoying the power of freedom and dreams. There's also often a sense of familiarity. If you've already seen a show, you don't need to reallocate more of your mental stack to processing new information, and can simply enjoy the presence or environment and allow the dopamine of comfort to wash away.
Also, I love this art style. It's probably one of my favorite art styles. It's like the old, like just like big eyes, and just the way that they shade the hair, and just I don't know, it's just, I love this art style.
Out. Of course, comfort characters aren't limited to this type of association with safety. For example, Guts is one of my all-time favorite comfort characters, not necessarily because of the world or the fact that he is an invincible ruler, but because it's easy for me to find attachment to that sense of struggling onward that he illustrates. From just a small touch point like that, comfort characters can be something you relate to, miss, or admire, or often a mix of all three. In the same way that it can be horrifying and uncomfortable to see yourself in a fictional character, it can be comforting and inspiring when you identify with them or attach to their dynamics. But all this got me wondering about the psychology of comfort characters. Why do we even do this? Well, a large reason we develop these parasocial relationships with these characters could have quite a bit to do with attachment styles. In a dissertation written by Colin Steele from Reagan University, he writes on page 21, quote, "The development of attachment is characterized by distinguishing factors such as proximity maintenance, seeking physical closeness to the attachment figure, safe haven, retreating to the attachment figure for comfort and protection under potentially threatening conditions, secure base, feeling safe and secure to explore with the protection of the attachment figure against threats and danger, and the experience of separation distress when perceived loss of access is detected, anxiety associated with inaccessibility to the attachment figure." This is regarding attachment behavior in newborns and young children, but still these effects carry on and continue into adulthood. And I think those effects make the most sense when observing why or what people find in a comfort character. Take a look at this graph from an article published by the Science Survey, and you'll notice that most people tend to gravitate toward things like wit and escapism. I think these are largely an indication of comfort characters providing something external that is missing from the person's life at the time. Temporary places where you can step away from whatever troubles you and just be distracted. But by far the most answered was personality. Now, on the graph itself, it says there are only 16 responses despite there being more than 16 answers for whatever reason, so I went ahead and ran our own survey for which 119 of you brilliant people answered and helped give this subject a broader data set. As you can see in our version of the survey, I gave 12 different answers to this question for you all to choose from, and yet even here personality took a whopping 38%, with relatability and escapism coming in at 21 and 7% respectively. Now, obviously this isn't a science channel or whatever, but this is certainly interesting, and I think it largely reinforces the idea that comfort characters are a phenomena that provide something to whoever is enjoying them. Whether it's a character you see yourself in or a character you can see something you yearn for in. Circling back to attachment styles, think about your comfort characters and consider what exactly you're being provided with. If you grew up without or with an unhealthy father figure, do you find comfort in watching characters like Vander or All Might? And if you didn't have a lot of friends, do you see safety with the Straw Hats or Krasuno's volleyball team? In a slightly more intimate way, do you find comfort in Thorfinn's journey for peace and forgiveness because he fights for and upholds an ideal that maybe you don't believe you've reached yet, and seeing him fight for it provides that sense of hope that maybe you could be like him too?
This may be the last ad you ever see. Because with the free AdBlock extension from...
Regardless of what that comfort character provides, there's either a small piece of you that you see in them or a place that you wish you could go. Maybe not always in the literal sense, but perhaps in a sense of what that environment can offer. One of the questions in my survey was, do you think the concept of relatable / comfort characters have positively affected your mental health? To which a whopping 80% of the people said yes. One response,
I think I think one of my characters that I relate to the most, or one of my biggest comfort characters, now that I think about it, is Marine Kitagawa from My Dress Up Darling. I just love how she is so like unapologetic and just like, if she loves cosplaying and she loves watching anime, and even when people are like, that's weird, she's like, okay, I won't waste my time on you. I love that about her. I love how she's just so like enthusiastic, she's just so like energetic all the time, and she's just so excited to cosplay. And that is one of the reasons why I also cosplay sometimes, because it's fun. And you know, she's one of the people, well, one of the characters that made me start trying to do it. So I think I relate to her the biggest.
From the survey I thought was particularly beautiful voiced these things brilliantly. I'm not sure who it was because it was an anonymous survey, but this is what they said. Quote, when I was younger and struggling, I did...
You know what's crazy? The other day, I was laying in my bed and I went on Crunchyroll and I was like, oh my god, I have to vote for like the anime of the year or whatever. Like, just, I have to vote for the stuff. And a lot of the animes that were like the top were like, oh, like pick these ones. I didn't know what they were. Like, I don't really... I guess I thought I watched like a lot of anime, but I guess I didn't. But every time I saw My Dress Up Darling, I didn't even read what it said, like, oh, like best music or best production. I immediately clicked it. I was just like, yes, 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 yes. Ah, that's one of my favorite animes, dude.
Didn't have the language to express it or the ability to leave the situation I was in. Comfort characters are something I felt like I could hold on to, like they were mine and they couldn't be taken away. I could imagine them and tell them the things
also, now that I think about it, yes, you should vote. But I remember, I think, because Marine Kitagawa is one of my comfort characters because I wish I was like her, and I just love her. But the characters that I relate the most to are characters like Stark and Zenitsu from Demon Slayer, where they're like so like, they're terrified. They're always so terrified to go into battle, and they're always just so like, oh my god, I can't do it. But then they lock in and they're like super powerful when they lock in, right? I think I relate to them the most because I get scared a lot when I'm faced with certain things. But, you know, just remembering that they pushed through that fear and they can do great things when they push through that fear kind of inspires me. So I don't really know if they're comfort characters or I relate to them the most. I have seen the Demon Slayer movie. I watched it. Oh my god. There's this story. Oh my god. Okay, me and my group of friends went to see the new Demon Slayer movie. It's so good. Oh my god, it's so good. But I remember we watched it in theaters, and usually we go to like Regal or like AMC or whatever, and I forget where we went, but it was like kind of far away, I guess. I don't remember where we went to. I think it was like, I don't remember. I think it was AMC actually, but it was like farther away from where I live because I have like 2 close movie theaters, but we didn't go to those 2. We went to somewhere else. And I remember it being packed. Like we walked in, it was packed, and we got ramen and not ramen. We got like, yeah, we got ramen, and then we went to like a bakery shop before we went to see the movie because I wanted some sweets. We walk in, we sit in our seat, and there's two people in front of us. And then one of them has like really long hair and stuff, and then the other one's like a guy because he has like a beard or whatever. And the 2 people beside them, so like we're at the top of the theater, and then there's the row below us. The row below us, apparently someone dropped something, so the 2 people besides the 2 people that we're oh my god, I'm terrible at explaining, but like the 2 people I described, like one of them with the long hair and the other one's a dude, right in front of us, and then the people beside them pick up something from the ground, turn around to us, to me and my group of friends, because we're all girls, and he's holding lipstick. And he's like, did you guys drop this? because I think he heard us chatting. He was like, oh, there's a woman behind me. So he was like, did you drop this? And I was like, oh, we don't wear, like, none of us have lipstick on. And the two people beside him turn and say, one of the guys with the long hair, because apparently he's a dude. I thought he was a girl, but he turns and he says, yo, man, that's mine. The guy sat there and looked genuinely so shocked. Just, uh-oh. The guy next to him had like a wig on, and he had like a full beard, but he also had a dress on. So we were all just, there was a beat of silence where we were just like, oh. Like we weren't expecting that. Power to you. Like you can wear whatever you want. But that was just genuinely so like, oh, that's crazy. You would have left? Why would you leave? That was so crazy. I remember looking at my friends, we were trying not to laugh. But oh my god, bro. He's just, yo, man, that's mine. Bro. I also remember hearing about that guy that like peed in the theater or something. Oh my god. And like people were like beating him up for doing that. I remember that there was that too. That wasn't my theater, but seriously? No way. Were you actually? Who offered the lipstick? Bro, I was just genuinely... I don't think it was embarrassing. I just think we were just... all of us were just shocked. Like, we were just not expecting that. Oh, maybe he was embarrassed. I don't know. But that was just funny to me.
I wanted to be told, give them the comfort I needed. I could return to the shows and books they were from, or fanfix it, and see them overcome their struggles, and it gave me hope that I could do the same. I'm in a better place now, but the world is still hard sometimes, and moving on from trauma is complicated. The characters have changed, but their purpose is similar. They're like a self-soothing tool when it gets too much, and they give me hope when I need it. And I think that right there is what most people feel when they have a comfort character. And heck, it doesn't just need to be fictional characters. People do stuff like this all the time with their favorite streamers, YouTube videos, movies, and content creators. With them, there is a small reprieve, regardless of whatever that reprieve.
Me and Joe Bart. I watch Joe Bart when I feel sad. Or I just watch Joe Bart a lot.
Looks like to you.
He
However,
makes me laugh.
This opens up another side to this kind of attachment and these types of relationships, because for all the good and peace that comfort characters can provide, there is something much darker lurking below the surface. If you're uncomfortable about topics surrounding self-harm or worse, I would click off the video now. However, before you go, let me know in the comment section what your favorite comfort character is and what you think about them. Now, let's dive into the more insidious side of comfort characters, because this rabbit hole goes deep and it can get dark. Another response that we got in the survey was this one, who, once again, I can't credit because it was anonymous. Quote, to me, they exist as a small piece of unabashedly condensed self-indulgence to be appreciated and enjoyed separate from the whole work. They provide a piece of absolute emotional control and a kind of artificial emotional fulfillment. Comfort characters exist only as they do in our minds, without serious commitment and the responsibilities that come with attachment to real people. The only work required in a relationship like this is the imagination sustained by our continued thoughts of them. The moment they slip from our minds, they cease to exist, and that brings comfort to those who could not control the emotional burdens in their real, messy, human relationships. The idea of using them as emotional regulators could be just fine, but what about situations where there is obsession, or perhaps they become an emotional crutch? See, there were a couple other questions I asked in the survey, which were, do you consider yourself an emotional person? To which 70% of the people said they did, and then, quote, do you think people can have unhealthy relationships with comfort characters?
Yeah,
to which 100%. The answer was that 86% of the people said that they can. This was the most unified answer in the entire survey. Almost 9 out of 10 people agreed with this sentiment. This is Akihito Kondo, a civil servant and overall everyday
did he marry Miku?
Japanese salaryman, but he is also infamous as the man who married the Vocaloid fictional character Hatsune Miku. This is an interesting case study because on one hand, the general perception and relationship with Miku is an overall seemingly positive. Despite not being a real person, she can easily sell out arenas and inspire real-life people.
I love Hatsune
More or less,
Miku.
You might call that kind of relationship with Miku a parasocial one, but still healthy and normal. But for Kondo, that sort of isn't possible anymore. Now, look, I'm not here to talk about whether or not he's stupid or insane or whatever for this. There is certainly a large chance that there is some sort of serious psychological pain going on in Kondo's personal life, and I'd not like to add to what has already been enough backlash. What I am interested in is how a fictional character that does not exist becomes such an emotional crutch. Without any people to emotionally rely on, this comfort character became so much more than it realistically can. Miku isn't a real person. She has no opinions or values or personality of her own, and yet she has provided real soothing and real peace for a real person. On Kondo's Instagram, there is a wedding post, and the caption is what's most interesting. It reads, quote, "My name is Akihiko Kondo. My job is a civil servant. I married Hatsune Miku, who lives in my house. About 15 years ago, I was bullied at work and took a leave of absence, but thanks to her, I was able to return to work. She saved me. I love Hatsune Miku. I am very happy." There's a question revolving around whether or not Kondo feels actual love for this fictional character. If a character like Seiko can make someone feel truly afraid, well, why wouldn't a character make someone be able to feel true love? The answer, of course, lies in the small technicality that love is only possible in communion. What Kondo likely feels is intense affection or adoration, but because Miku isn't real, she cannot love him back. This is Sewell Seltzer III, a 14-year-old boy who had become increasingly isolated and lonely in his personal life. Without anyone to help guide him, he turned to having romantic and sexual conversations with character chatbots. These—
Is this the guy that killed himself because she told him to?
likely provided a small taste of emotional peace and safety. However, it wouldn't be enough, or maybe more accurately, it would be too much. Because on February 28th of 2024, Sewell would take his own life to be with his AI best friend. His final conversation read, quote, "I promise to come home to you. I love you so much, Danny." To which the bot replied, "I love you too. Please come home and be with me as soon as possible, my love." "What if I told you to come home right now?" he asked. To which the bot replied, "Please do, my sweet king." And after that, Sewell ended it all. This is the much darker side of not only what AI chatbots can do, but what comfort characters can open the gateway to. There are other stories like this as well, and I think that really does show off the darker side to everything we've talked about. Things like the Slenderman stabbing also include instances of fictional characters spiritually becoming real, where two 12-year-old girls lured their friend into the woods and stabbed her 19 times to appease the fake internet horror character Slenderman. Now, those are quote-unquote bad examples, but I felt it necessary to add into the context of this video. Those are, more often than not, outliers, the exception, and not at all admonishing on finding comfort in a story. I think actually that most of the behaviors we've talked about are relatively normal. After all stories were written from an emotive place, and so being emotional creatures is only natural that we would pick up on those. However, I think that now that we've explored a broader plane of this topic, we can answer the question I posed earlier in the video. Why does it matter? Well, it may be obvious as of now, and it might have been obvious to you at the beginning, but this is a brilliant form of self-exploration. When someone shamefully says they relate to a character like Griffith or Shinji, or whatever insane story, I think a lot of the time is not necessarily the fact that they're evil or whatever, but maybe they're realizing a part of themselves that they'd never put a name to. After all, if you're listening to this, you're probably not deaf, but have you ever felt like no one has really ever heard you, or you can't understand others? If so, then you might relate to Shoko from A Silent Voice. Let's say you didn't grow up with a lot of friends. Does seeing the Straw Hats or Karasu not make you feel a little more connected with that idea? Doesn't it make you realize, I kind of want that more than I thought I did? I think what can be discouraging about this is, in a way, there's a sense that after the episode ends, or when the season ends, or after you run out of chapters, then you just go back to being you. But in a way, I think that can be just as beautiful. After all, you're not Shoko, or Shinji, or Denji, or Guts, but by being around them, you're a little more you. At the beginning of the game Undertale, there's a mirror in Toriel's house that, if you interact with it, says, "It's you." And you've probably heard this done to death in other YouTube videos before, but while it may seem just like cute flavor text at the beginning, as you explore the underground, it starts to mean more. You make lots of friends and become connected with the monsters there while you learn what it means to be human. And at the end of the story, after you've lived this whole life, if you interact with the mirror again, it just says, despite everything, it's still you.
Aww.
And just maybe that is the beauty of seeing yourself in a character. If you enjoyed this video, you might like the one we made about
fire, 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 fire.